Good morning, guys, and welcome to the podcast. It's the week after Labor Day weekend. I'm really happy to have on our show Sue Schuster from Pennsylvania. And she is a business coach and expert on corporate credit. And she's going to talk about the work that she does with clients and how she helps for the business professionals, high income professionals listening to the podcast. She's the one to tune into for today. Sue, welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, and briefly give a brief introduction and we'll dive into the questions.
Sure. Again, my name's Sue Schuster. I was a small business owner for 19 years. I actually owned a swim school, which is a bit different, definitely in the service industry. So we built that and grew that and sold it in 2022. So I come just out of the small business community, and small doesn't feel small. When you're 100 employees or less is considered a small business, and that's not real small.
Mm.
So been there, done that, wore all the hats. And what I've learned now as a business coach to what I didn't know as a business owner, it was huge. And now the passion is to get that out there into the world and let them know what I didn't know so that maybe their story could be easier, better, or different.
Interesting. And I love this transition from swimming school and coach to what you're doing now. And what do people come to you for now? What are problems? Because you help business owners find credit and how to find funding. So, what do they come to you for? Who is your client avatar?
Sure. So the business owner who's ready to either grow or scale or made some bad decisions and were like, oops, now I got to regroup. That I would love to say that I engage in people come to me to build corporate credit. So I teach them what that is, how to do it. And then we get into a coaching strategy. And then now they're ready to grow and scale. And then we find them funding. So all the three things I do really go together. But that's not how people find me. Usually people need money for this, that, or the other thing. And then we build their corporate credit so they can completely separate their personal and business, at least mostly separate the business and personal. And then maybe we'll do some coaching after that because I can only take so many as coaching clients.
Interesting. Okay. So the next question I have for you is what is the difference between business credit and corporate credit and why every business needs it?
So business credit, just think of your EIN as a person. So it can get into contracts, it can get sued, it can get lending, it can have bank accounts, it can do all sorts of things. So when your business is a baby, just as when we started our personal credit journey as 18-year-olds, we used our social security number, got bank accounts, credit card, and then we started on the journey of building our own personal credit. And where do we use that? We use that for mortgages or car loans or things that we use personally. The problem becomes when, as a business owner, now I want to get a truck for my business or a new rental lease space or something, and then I still am utilizing my personal credit. So the more I leverage my personal credit for the business, the less personal credit I have for personal stuff. So maybe I wanted to move or something else, and the business has all leveraged my credit. Now, either the banks will just tell me no, or I have to go through a ton of hoops to go prove that no, these are all business loans and this is what my business is doing and I can pay them off. It's not a problem. And then you keep going that way. Corporate credit is the ability to get funding on just the EIN, and it doesn't take 5-6 years to grow. It only takes maybe a year, depending on how diligent you are and making sure your business is set up properly. And then you would go to the banks and lenders and say, hey, this is what my recommended amount is. Give me the loan. Can I have the loan for whatever for my business? Usually those business loans aren't too high, not really in the millions, unless you have the business credit or the credit is reporting to the credit agencies for a large amount. But just for startups, you can look for several thousands for a startup and businesses that have been in business for a while and have large budgets and get that also reported. Then you can get into the millions.
So the next question I have for you is you talk about corporate credit strategies that Wall Street already knows and Main Street is just learning.
Right. So could you imagine like some big corporations like Toyota have their board of directors personally guaranteeing the next factory that they build? That doesn't happen. So these businesses have built, and I can't say all big businesses have. For instance, some business have their credit reporting to Dun & Bradstreet, and then they buy a Learjet or something off the Dun & Bradstreet EIN and their credit limit. But now they want a fleet of trucks, but that reports to Experian. So they can't get the fleet of trucks or even one truck. So they get frustrated in the fact that some things report someplace to one of the three credit bureaus, others report to a different place, and then most report to no place. So that's what I teach them how to do, is how to actually get it all reporting, and you have a full portfolio that is reporting to the credit bureau so that you can go ahead and leverage your EIN. So Main Street's been doing this for years and years. It's not a new thing. It's not a new thing for Main Street. But before, a coach would walk you through the process, and it costs $3,000 to $10,000. I'm sure that you guys can think possibly of the names of some of those companies that do that. But now there's other avenues and platforms that you can utilize that is way more cost effective. We'll put it that way.
Interesting. What are the myths about corporate credit?
The myth about corporate credit is that it's either easy, I already have it, or it's too hard. So the banks make you think that you already have it. And there's only several banks. I know a few off the top of my head. There's several banks that do report, and most of the banks don't report. So as you're like, we'll just pick a big bank, a Bank of America, for instance. Bank of America does not report to Dun & Bradstreet, Experian, or Equifax. It reports to itself. So as you build corporate credit, like you're doing a great job with your bank, you're getting lines of credit or whatnot, and you're paying them off, and you're doing a great job. And now you want a large loan, and Bank of America says, this is the terms, this is the rate. We approve you for this. Okay, great. But if I go over to another bank and I want their loan, I can't get it because I've only built corporate credit within the bank I'm using. Happens all the time. So the banks like to make you think that you're building corporate credit, and you're not. Amex is another one. There's one of the Amex cards that actually reports. It's the top one. It's the most expensive one. Most of us are never going to get that card. Everybody else ends up with some other Amex card, and they say it reports, and it does. It reports to the SBFE, which is, I'm not sure if it's a company. Anyway, it's associated with Dun & Bradstreet in some way. So it reports all the good credit to the SBFE, and then the bad credit goes directly to Dun & Bradstreet, which isn't super fair. So that's one thing. People think they have it, and they don't, because the credit bureaus and your banks and everybody let you believe you have it. Secondly, it's easy to get corporate credit. If you don't know, that's a complete myth. It is not easy. It's not easy at all, because only 5% of the lenders, vendors, and people out there will actually report to one of the big three. Most of them report to some intermediary stage. There's more than 30 companies that have been created. I'm not sure what they do, but they don't get all the way right down to the big three. So you have to know what vendors and lenders to use. Gas cards are some out there on the AI platforms. It'll tell you that Quill, Granger, and Uline report, which is true, but you need more than just those few to report. And it doesn't take forever. It can take up to a year because you need some credit cycles, but it's hard to do. But then once it starts going, then it's much easier. And then you can put it on, once you're using the right cards and banks, then it goes on autopilot. So those are myths. You probably don't have it. You have to use the right people. But once it starts working, it really starts working.
Interesting. And my question is for you is just like any sort of, I know, like, for example, credit card or mortgage or any sort of personal loan, and then there's also a business line of credit. What the question a lot of the audience is, where do you come in? Can somebody just go on the Google and type in or ChatGPT and be like, how do I get corporate credit and find it? So how do you fit into all of this?
It'll only give you one or two things, and you should have about 10 trade lines. So the knowledge that I'm bringing is, these are the cards, these are the banks, these are what to use. And the part that actually really fails businesses is the setup part of their business. They didn't know that the banks are looking at 150 different things. That, do you have a website? Do you have, what kind of phone are you using? What's your email say? Did you set up your phone right in 411? So that's another thing that they don't think of.
Yeah.
So to make sure the business is set up properly is huge. And of course, I'd go through that with them. And then to make sure that they've done all the little steps, like letting Dun& Bradstreet, Experian, and Equifax know you exist. So if they don't know you exist, even if you've done the first step and you have the trade lines, but if they don't know you exist, then it's not being reported anyway. So there's all kinds of little nuances. Like you can have the knowledge, but you need somebody to help you walk through the steps and actually do it with you. It's very hard to just chat this and then get a checklist and hit all 150 things, because chat knows a lot, but it doesn't know all of it. Because I've done some queries on chat with this and I'm like, it's got it half right. But if you don't have it all right, it just doesn't work.
Interesting. And so now that we got you need somebody to make sure that it's not something where you can just go online and just apply for it. And it sounds like you have to have somebody with the know-how to secure these corporate credit lines. And so that's how you get it. The next question is, how do you grow corporate credit and how do you use it?
So how you grow it is literally get as much as your budget. It's not an additional expense. You get as much as your budget to report. So your big one is rent. That's probably not going to report unless you put it on a credit card, which may be not a great idea. Payroll is another huge one for people. And we do have a payroll company that does report, one of the very, very few. So as much of your budget you can get on there as possible, the more your recommended trade lines would be. And then we would do research to see which banks and lenders you would utilize to actually use it. So then you're going into, maybe you're getting a truck or something, you're going into the dealership and we know which dealership, we know which bank. We say, okay, I want this van or whatever I'm using to report to this. And the dealer would be like, no, that doesn't actually work. And you're like, yes, it does. So just go back, go check your computer and you'll be surprised. And it happens all the time.
Then now the question, so we got through how you get it and how you grow it, how to use it. Next question is, when is a good time to start looking for funding and corporate credit?
Yesterday, soon as you started it, soon as you start your business, because we, through this program or through me or through somebody, would help you actually put all the steps in to make a credible business. So it's easiest on startup. Okay, we didn't do it on startup. That ship has sailed. The next time is now. So when's the best time to plant a tree? When's the best time to do life insurance is all way back then. But now, so you should start it now. And we'll walk you right through the process. And maybe some of the stuff's already there. Maybe some of the line items you're missing, but we will go back and fix those things. Usually what I find in a business that's old, they've either moved addresses, or when they started the EIN, their lawyer actually used their address to start this other person's EIN. So they have 5 addresses associated. That is a huge flag. So you have to get them all to report, like whichever one your IRS EIN is under now, that's what we need to report to. And we can help people get them all lumped together. I find that all the time, that there's one headquarters and branch, and they're like, I lived there 5 years ago and that's so, and I'm not using that anymore. Getting all those to come together, because it's not actually on your EIN number, it's on your address.
Interesting. I know a lot of people listening to the podcast, doctor, lawyer, dentist, high income, and there's also solopreneurs. There's doctors living the digital nomads. They don't physically go into a space. But how big does your company need to be for you to start considering corporate credit? Because the first thing is like you have your personal debt, then you have your business debt. But how big is it? Is it just for publicly traded or like large hundreds of millions of dollars?
No.
Talk about how big.
Perfect for solopreneur. Anybody who thinks they may need money later. Now, they don't even have to have, because you haven't heard me talk about revenue, because it's not about revenue. It's not about how much you're making. It's about how much you're spending wisely, how much you can repay. So for instance, lots of startups start up this way, and then in a year or two, they're ready to hire more staff or do more things or get a better CRM or whatever they're doing. And they're like, if I had 100,000, or even if I had 50K to dump right back into my business, how would that get me to the next level? How would that get me to where I want to be? So if you're just thinking, if I had 50, 100K, what can I do with that? If you had built corporate credit, you would have access to that. And then you can take on any opportunity that comes your way. So it does not matter how big, how small,
Yeah.
anything. The amount of money that you will be recommended will be contingent on how much you spend and spend wisely and
Yeah.
pay off.
Yeah. A follow-up question I have for you is with the audience. I think we've gone into great depth and detail in the corporate credit and the importance of it and the general steps. And for the audience, if they want more, they can contact Sue directly through socials or her email. A lot of people are wondering, you built and sold a successful swim school and you're a competitive athlete and coach. What are how did you get into this field? Like, why corporate credit? Why didn't you start a franchise or continue building and growing your school or coaching high level athletes, etc.?
My coaching was children, like kids, not high level athletes, because when you look at any sport or any learn to, the money is where the kids are. Because how many kids are doing pee-wee football or soccer or anything else? Lots of them. But then when you get into pro athletes, there's not very many of them. So it was a learn to program. And why'd we get out? I was burnt out, just
Hmm.
like any business owner. When you wear all the hats, at some point you're like, what is my quality of life really? Do I get to spend my time with my children? What is really important to me? So that's where it became my parents were actually in the business as well. Well, they were getting in their 70s and 80s. And I'm like, I'm not loving it. My kids don't want it. The other grandkids don't want it. What the heck are we doing? So that's why we exited. And then how the coaching is coaching. So just it's a faster way to get where you want to go. And it doesn't matter with what.
Mhm.
So I'm still coaching, just in a different way and with a different client. They're not 5 anymore. Although sometimes. So that's how I got here. And then once I didn't start with corporate credit, I started with business coaching.
Hmm.
And through business coaching, I learned all kinds of other avenues that I had between the lending and the corporate credit and be your own banker with infinite banking and all kinds of things. I'm like, well, dude, I just had my head down and worked really hard and did really well. But if I had these avenues, virtual assistants and a good CRM, all the things, if I had these, I might have had more time for my family and then not wanted to exit the business because honestly, we were doing really well. So that's the goal, is to teach people what I didn't know so that they can have the quality of life and whatever success means to them, because that means different. And can't shove success down your throat. It's not all about the money, honest. They can put that on your tombstone. I worked 80 hours a week. Good for you. No disrespect to all those people out there who are doing that. You're killing it. But that wasn't what I had in my head for success for me.
Interesting. Yeah, no, for example, a lot of doctors and dentists, they're burnt out, and it's interesting to hear because they may be interested in coaching, but in different avenues. There's always a niche where you can fill that void. So, final question is, how can people connect with you, contact you, and learn more about obtaining and building and maintaining corporate credit?
Yeah. So email by far is the easiest, which is schuster@profitturing.ai.
Yeah,
I'm also on LinkedIn, but under my maiden name. And then Facebook's pretty easy to find me as well, which is still Sue Schuster or Sue Schuster Profit Touring.
yeah.
Those are all the easiest places to find me. I'm also on Pinterest, on X, and all the things, but I can't say I'm great at social media. I'm not in love with that.
Yeah.
But email's the easiest way to get in touch with me.
Yeah. A lot of I know we have around 1 or 2 minutes, but because you mentioned profit Turing and try Turing, what do you mean by these
So
terms?
profit touring is the name of the coaching aspect. So we use a profit acceleration software. So in an hour, we can find you 100 grand worth of stuff that's already in your business by just making little tweaks. That's really where my seat is. And profit acceleration is just a tool. Been there, done that. I love systems. I love just making people more efficient and happier. That's the goal as a business coach. And then Try Turing is the name of the platform that builds corporate credit.
Yeah, excellent. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I learned a lot, and I encouraged a lot of the listeners to check out Shu's bio and contact her, connect with her, and thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, I'm Sue Schuster with Profit Turing and Try Turing. I just got off of Chris's podcast and it was so much fun. He asked all the right questions, gave me time to answer, and I just had a blast. So I would highly recommend being with Chris. Get on his podcast, get out there and get your message